Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heat is gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies won their second straight game. For the second straight game, they rallied in the fourth quarter. In this one, they took down maybe an equally shorthanded Philadelphia 76ers team. They had a fourth quarter offensive explosion. We have not seen many of those recently. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about the win. I'm going to talk about the big game from Jaren Jackson Jr., the career game of Jake LaRavia, and a lot more. Before I do, just a reminder, if you want to support this program, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you join the Patreon, you can join our Slack channel. You can join the Grits and Grinds Slack channel and talk about the Grizzlies with me and other Grizzlies fans around the clock. We also have a general NBA section, and we got movies section. We got everything. So if you want to join that, do it at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. You also get a bonus monthly episode over there. Thanks to everybody who's already signed up and joined at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. This game was the Grizzlies with 9 healthy bodies going against a Sixers team that was missing Tyrese Maxey, along, of course, with Embiid and a bunch of other guys. Anthony Melton's been out for a long time. So they were very shorthanded. After the game, you know, because they're in a playoff race, like their season is not over. They're holding on hope that Embiid's going to come back, something that makes their season very different from our season. And because of that, you know, this is a more crushing loss for them than like it would have been if the Grizzlies had lost. But after the game, Kelly Oubre, you know, said that it was an embarrassing defeat, and it was a good example of the old saying that hard work beats talent that isn't working hard. And I sort of agree with them, but also not really, because this Sixers team was so shorthanded. Like, the Grizzlies had by far the best player in the game, which was Jaren Jackson Jr. This is a lot like the Grizzlies' losses to the Trailblazers, where we were upset. We lost consecutive home games against the Trailblazers, and I think it's fair to be upset you lost those games. But also, the Trailblazers had the best players in the game. They had Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant, and we had no one close to those guys as far as actual NBA talent. So, like, yeah, you know, they had Tobias Harris and Buddy Hield and Kelly Oubre and Paul Reed, but, like, those are not all-star players by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, Oubre and Hield are arguably cast-offs / mercenaries from other teams. And then when you look at the Sixers bench, I mean, they had to play Jeff Doughton, Ricky Council IV. I mean, I say talent-wise, it was even, if nothing else. But making it more painful for Sixers fans was the fact that they got up to a big lead. They dominated the second and third quarters. They dominated for a few quarters. They dominated the offensive glass and the second chance scoring. Going into the fourth quarter, where the Sixers had a 12-point lead, they had 30 second chance points, which is a preposterous number. Like, the Grizzlies were getting murdered on the glass, and they were getting murdered by a team that, again, didn't have really any bigs. Like, Paul Reed is sort of an undersized center. He posted a lot of rebounds, and him fouling out, honestly, kind of big for this game. Like, they had a play where Nick Batum had a follow dunk where there were no Grizzlies players near the rim. I don't know how you're not near the rim when you're on defense in the half court trying to get a rebound. But the Grizzlies got better at the rebounding in the fourth quarter and then did their own damage on the offensive glass. And because of the lack of, like, true bigs in this game, you know, Jaren and Santi and Paul Reed are the only true, like, front court-ish players. I mean, Mo Bamba played a little bit, This is why you ended up with maybe some kind of wild stats. Like if you had any of the Grizzlies players in fantasy basketball, congratulations. Basically, everyone put up monstrous numbers. A lot of that is someone has to get the rebounds. And so because of that, you see Jake LaRavia with his second consecutive double-double. Ends up with 13 rebounds. That's a career high. Jaren gets 11 rebounds. And we can now compliment, I guess, Jaren Jackson Jr.'s overall game. 30 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 blocks. This is the fifth 30-point, 10-rebound game of Jaren Jackson Jr.'s career, his third this season. This is the first time he's ever had a game with at least 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks. And again, easily the best player on the court. I mean, by far, there's no question. And I do feel like Jaren gets criticized sometimes for his play. And I think rightfully point out the things that we wish he could do better. But, Grizzlies fans, we're not the problem, I don't think. It's like sometimes the national media underrates Jaren and other fans underrates Jaren. I mean, you watch this game and it's just like, no, he's really good. He's so unique. He can, in fact, be the best player on the court, some nights. I mean, ideally, he's your second or third best player, on a good team. I still think my theory for why he gets underrated sometimes or overlooked when people are talking about some of the best players in the NBA, I still think it's the aesthetics of his game that sometimes he just looks awkward when he's making plays, and he looks awkward when he's beating guys off the dribble, and his jumper looks weird. And for whatever reason, I think that matters to people, that he doesn't look as smooth and natural as maybe what you think of as the best players in the NBA. And for that reason, at least that's my theory on why maybe he gets a little bit underrated. But Jaren, carried this squad in this game. By his own words, he was trash early in the game, but he had a strong second half and helped the Grizzlies pull off this comeback. This was the Grizzlies' 8th comeback of the season where they erased a double-digit deficit. They were down 15 late in the third, and what was cool about the fourth quarter offensive explosion, 34 points for the Grizzlies in the fourth quarter. This is, of course, after in the previous 6 games after the All-Star break, they posted an 87 offensive rating in fourth quarters. So maybe it was unexpected, but they pulled out this fourth quarter, a lot of it because they had a little bit more talent than we've been accustomed to in these games. Of course, Jaren Jackson Jr. returning from games missed, but in the second half, the Grizzlies actually shortened their rotation, and they actually played, I think, mostly guys that we're generally comfortable with. Now, we're not used to saying we're comfortable with Jake LaRavia playing, but if you ignore Jake LaRavia, you had the starters who were Vince Wiliams Jr., Luke Kennard, John Conchar, Santi Aldama, and, of course, Jaren. And then you had Gigi Jackson and Lamar Stevens, and there was times where those 7 guys were rotating in and out, and you're like, I'm basically comfortable with all these guys who are on the court. And there haven't been a lot of games recently where I think you could look at these lineups and say, that lineup's fine. And who's coming in? Lamar Stevens? Oh, he's pretty good. I'm fine with him playing. And Jake LaRavia has been playing so well that now we actually have an 8-man squad that is not awful. Caveat, if we're talking about just horrible teams. We can't beat anybody good. But when you talk about the situation the Grizzlies are in, all of a sudden you have this tight 8-man group. You're like, all right, those guys are fine. And actually the starters, let's give them some credit. The Grizzlies are now, after this victory, 4-1 when they start the group they started on Wednesday night. When Vince Wiliams Jr., Luke Kennard, John Conchar, Santi Aldama, and Jaren Jackson Jr. start this season, 4-1. They've beaten the Rockets, Magic, Raptors, and then, of course, the Sixers last night, and then they got destroyed by the Bulls. And I think, last game I was kind of poking fun at this, where they started Kennard and Conchar, and I was like, oh, what a very novel idea to start your best available players. I think clearly those 5 guys, hands down, by far your best 5 available players. And so they were there, available to play. Good job playing them. And then in the second half, let's say good job to Taylor Jenkins for shortening the rotation. Matt Hurt played in the first half, did not play in the second half. They just leaned heavy minutes on those 8 guys, and that was a big part of them pulling out that victory. Some stats in the fourth quarter. I already told you they scored 34 points. They held the Sixers to 7 for 28 field goal attempts in that fourth quarter. They blocked 6 shots. The Grizzlies blocked 6 shots in the fourth quarter, part of a overall game performance of 15 blocked shots. That's the second most blocks they've had in a game as a team. The Grizzlies were 11 for 11 from the line in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, the Sixers only made 1 free throw. And in that fourth quarter, Jake LaRavia and Santi Aldama both played all 12 minutes of it, and both of these guys were so huge to the victory. Jake LaRavia, 19 points, 13 rebounds. He got 7 of those rebounds just in the fourth quarter. 5 of those 13 rebounds were offensive rebounds. So he posts consecutive double-doubles. He has now posted in his career consecutive double-doubles the same number of times Jaren Jackson Jr. has, which of course is once. He, with 2 double-doubles, here's a fun novelty stat. He's moved into a tie for 64th in franchise history with the most double-doubles, with 2, passing just a few notable players like Tayshaun Prince, Hamed Haddadi, Brian Cardinal, Deontay Davis, James Johnson, just a few names that Jake LaRavia now has more double-doubles as a Grizzly than. Jake was credited with 3 blocks, and the thing about his game, and this has been true for like the past week of games for Jake, he hasn't shot the ball that well. And he made a couple of threes in the first quarter. In the first quarter, the Grizzlies were kind of on fire. They scored 37 points in the first quarter, which is the most points they've scored in any first quarter this season. Jake LaRavia made both of his threes in that first quarter. The first 3 he hit, pretty wild. It was like a strange turnaround 3 near the end of the shot clock. But like in the fourth quarter, Jake LaRavia was just 1 out of 5 on his field goal attempts. The one make, it was a putback. But that's what I'm saying. He hasn't been making his shots. He's just been making hustle plays. He's been crashing the glass. He's been playing good defense. He got credited with 3 blocks in this game. Although technically 1 block I've watched a few times on the NBA stats page. I can't see where he blocked a shot at all, but doesn't matter. He gets credited with 3 blocks. He now has a game in his career with 19 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Jaren Jackson Jr. has never posted those stats in one game. Of course, Jaren's only had 1 game in his career with at least 13 rebounds, but you guys already knew all of that. Like, going down the stretch of this game, when they erased the lead, when they pulled off the big run in the fourth quarter to win it, it wasn't like smooth, beautiful offense. I mean, some of it was the game was being called. I would say they were letting them play a little bit. I mean, we feel like as Grizzlies fans that like they missed a lot of calls in the favor of the Sixers. I mean, technically they missed a lot of calls both ways. Both Nick Nurse and Taylor Jenkins were 2 for 2 on their challenges. So 4 times we got to see Scott Foster talking to that little referee camera and say the challenge is successful. There was no illegal contact on the play. But the Grizzlies were not getting that many foul calls. They were driving into traffic a lot, and the ball was getting stripped. And honestly, that's how I like the game to be refereed. And there weren't a ton that were super egregious. I thought Jake LaRavia had 1 where he looked like he clearly got fouled, but most of the other ones was like, all right, just play on. They're letting them play a little bit. So this was not beautiful basketball, but it was the Grizzlies making the extra effort plays, getting those second chance points. And also, if there were any beautiful moments from that fourth quarter, I think we would assign most of the beautiful plays to Santi Aldama. Santi Aldama, who I should apologize to for maybe the last couple episodes having Santi blindness, not remembering a lot of his contributions. Santi was awesome in the fourth quarter. Santi Aldama had a great game. Santi Aldama tied his career high with 7 assists. He had 17 points. He blocked 3 shots, also got a steal. Also had 4 rebounds, but it was the fourth quarter where Santi was doing most of his effective play. Santi was being aggressive as needed on offense, but the way he set guys up was tremendous. He made His 7th assist was a play where he drove into the defense, caused the defense to react and to constrict, and that opened up Luke Kennard, and he threw it out to Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard made a 3 to cut it to 2, and then a little bit later, Aldama had a drive towards the basket through traffic where he got fouled. He completed the three-point play. That shot cut the lead to 1 with 4 minutes left. So those were the beautiful plays. But then, I'll call it beautiful, the defensive plays he made in the fourth quarter. There was about a 1 or 2 minute span where he made 3 huge defensive plays, block shots and steals. Those were all a big part of the Grizzlies' comeback. And he got his final block with 19 seconds left. This was called a foul on the court, but Taylor Jenkins challenged the call. It was overturned. And that basically ended the game, where Santi Aldama got the block on Kelly Oubre. So Santi Aldama was awesome. And now, don't look now, but he's actually strung together, I think, some good games in a row. And it's always been a little bit of a mystery, or frequently this year, it's been a mystery where we wonder why Santi Aldama, isn't playing more. He's getting all the minutes recently. He has posted over 30 minutes played now in 3 straight games, in 4 out of the last 5. In those 5 games, he is averaging 13 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.5 blocks. He's making 2.2 threes per game over that stretch. So a really good game from Santi, a really good game from Jake LaRavia. I haven't even mentioned Vince Wiliams Jr., a.k.a. The Machine, a.k.a. Bug. Vince Wiliams Jr. had a hand in basically almost everything the Grizzlies did. He's also making those huge hustle plays down the stretch. He has a big offensive rebound where he gets fouled, goes to the line, puts the Grizzlies ahead for good in this game. On one of the plays where Jake LaRavia got his putback basket, it was because Vince Wiliams Jr. kept the play alive on the offensive glass. Vince Wiliams Jr. had 17 points. He tied his career high with 9 assists, had 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. Vince continues looking comfortable and confident. And when we talk about the overall talent level of this game, which Sixers players would you rather have, over Vince Wiliams Jr.? And I'm not even speaking with my extreme bias, Vince Wiliams Jr. might be my favorite player in the NBA non-D'Anthony Melton division. Vince Wiliams Jr. is better than almost every Sixers player, I think, they had available. I know Sixers fans who are extremely frustrated with Tobias Harris. They'd rather have Vince Wiliams Jr. But Vince Wiliams Jr. contributed so much in this game, and is just part of that overall, again, the overall stat assault. Stats aren't everything, and when you're shorthanded, you're going to post some weirder stats, and that's kind of what happened in this game. But I still like marveling at the numbers. Jaren with 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 blocks. Vince with 17 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, and 3 stocks. Aldama with 17 points and 7 assists and 4 combined steals and blocks. LaRavia, 19 points, 13 rebounds, 3 blocks. So a lot of great stuff from those guys, and some other players contributed, and we'll get to them right after this short break. Try out Underdog Fantasy if you're looking to play fantasy sports for cash. They have every single sport. If you're an NBA fan, you can play daily fantasy against your friends. You can join large best ball contests. You can pick highers or lowers to really add up your winnings. And if you sign up now using promo code FBBF, Underdog Fantasy will match your opening deposit up to $100. So if you want to play fantasy sports in a unique and fun way, try it out at Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code FBBF or click the link in this episode's description. All right, Luke Kennard and John Conchar were both very solid in their starting roles. Their stat lines maybe don't pop as big as the other guys, but Luke Kennard scored 15 points, had 2 assists and 2 rebounds, and made 3 out of 6 3-pointers, including, I'd say a big clutch one when that one he knocked down off of the Santi Aldama assist, made 2 clutch free throws. After the end of the game, it got a little hairy. The game should have been over when Vince Wiliams Jr. stole the ball from, I think it was from Oubre, and the Grizzlies were up 7 and had possession. It wasn't. Buddy Hield came in and hit a 3 to cut it to 2, but then Luke made his 2 clutch free throws. So Luke is I think a calming, steadying influence out there for the team. Conchar is just that connective piece. His 2 blocks were both very important. He finishes with 3 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and those 2 blocks. Jaren Jackson, he had 6 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist. He missed all 5 of his 3-point attempts. Since the All-Star break, he's only shooting 21.9% from the 3-point line. So that's a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit worrying. I know he's super young. He's super raw. We don't have to get that worked up about his stats in this rookie season, especially this post All-Star break, whatever you call it. It's the tank season, or it's not. The games aren't as meaningful. You know, you have to take that's why take your stats from this game. Take your Jake LaRavia 19-point, 13-rebound, 3-block game with a grain of salt. But we don't have to care too much about, the actual numbers. Just that the idea of Gigi being this awesome piece and this huge discovery for the Grizzlies is the fact that he combines that size and athleticism and scoring, above the rim and getting fouled on the inside. He combines that with 3-point shooting and spacing the court. If that isn't there, well, then that's a problem. So hopefully Gigi regains his rhythm and knocks down those 3-pointers. But I will say the promising things that Gigi showed in this game. He had 1 strong offensive rebound where he ripped the ball away from Kelly Oubre and got a dunk, part of the Grizzlies bouncing back with the second chance scoring. And maybe the best play he made all game, something very perhaps remedial for a lot of players. He had a beautiful swing pass to Santi Aldama. Jaren Jackson Jr. was double teamed in the post. He throws it out to Gigi. Gigi could have shot it. I think Gigi in other games would have shot it. Gigi, though, made the correct play, swung it to the top of the key to a wide open Santi Aldama. Santi drains the 3. Good job, Gigi. That was, I think, the best play he made all game, and it's something you love to see. Because that's the problem, or that's something he's had to work on, which is making the right pass and not considering himself to be like the main go-to guy on the team. So some real progress, I felt like, with that play. Finally, Lamar Stevens, he only played 15 minutes and 32 seconds. He had 8 points and 6 rebounds on 3 out of 4 from the field. Just overall, a really good win. Anytime you look up and down the roster, and basically everyone had a good game. Like, there's no one who you were like, oh, they didn't have it tonight. Everyone contributed. A total team victory. And also the Grizzlies pulling out another road win. Kind of odd. This is kind of odd. The Grizzlies have 15 road wins. Like, the Milwaukee Bucks have 16. Last season, the Grizzlies had 16 road wins. They were 16-25 on the road last year. They're 15-17 on the road this year. It's weird. For as bad as the Grizzlies are, and make no mistake, they're bad, to have 15 road wins, that's kind of remarkable. Also, just randomly, this was the 7th game in their last 8 where it was a quote-unquote clutch game, based on the NBA's definition of a clutch game, which is the score is within 5 within the last 5 minutes of the game. 7 of the last 8 have gone into clutch minutes. 15 of their last 19 games have been clutch games. So sure, those other 4, I think we lost by 30. But they've actually been hanging around in a lot of these games, and it was good to see them pull it out. It was good to see Jake and Jaren and Vince and Santi all have these monster performances and get that victory. Anyways, I think that's all for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you want to support the show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't do that already. All right. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz!